Let's be real. Van life is amazing! Let's also be real. Welcome everybody. Today we are going to talk about the frequently asked questions of van life that all of you guys have asked us over the last few weeks,
along with us sharing how we do life in the van as a family.
Our made-up sponsor today is Faux Reel. Faux Reel is known for being the #1 illusionary fishing rod on the market.
Honey, I bought you something for your birthday.
Faux Reel?
Faux Reel!
Mom, is he being for real?
No, he's using Faux Reel.
Faux Reel. It's for real. Now, back to the video. This video is going to be a lot more laid back compared to most of our other videos we've made, but let's dive right into, there's a couple easy ones I see here. Do you want to read this first one off?
What's been your most unexpected favorite part of van life with kids?
We've been shooting for a total of 45 seconds. We've already had meltdowns with the children. So this is a good look into reality.
Probably the being outside more and the effect that it has on our children. They're just way more content. Obviously, weather permitting. If it's not way too hot or way too cold, they just do so much better outside.
I totally agree with you on that. And while the kids still have their meltdowns and still do their things at times, overall, I've seen them enter into a beautiful side of just playing. There's so many things I think that touch their senses just by being outside. Just literally their feet on the dirt and running around and playing with sticks. And it's been cool to see how little you need on average for kids to have a good time.
We've also had some questions about how we deal with when nature calls. The kids and I use the tiny potty predominantly. So our tiny potty, when the kids or I go, #1, we dump it out in the grass, and #2, we bag it and then find a dumpster or something along the way.
And when I go, you can go back and review the My Potty My Choice sponsor on that episode. I'd like to thank our made-up sponsor of this video, My Potty My Choice. But what I do is typically I'll be as patient as possible. I'll use nature almost always if it's just #1, and if it's the other number, I'll wait until we can find a rest stop or gas station or something like that, which we've just kind of learned our flow of the day, when we eat, kind of when things happen.
TMI, no one asked that.
Hey, it's a part of the natural cycle, the circadian rhythm of life.
Another friend had a comment that said, "No question, loving every second of living through you all." And Leif had the joke that you might want to watch through to the end and see all the ins and outs to see if you really want to continue watching.
Someone asked, we'll keep everyone's identity anonymous. No. I was thinking about listing all the names, but some of them we didn't write down, and anyways, so we're just let's just ask the question. So someone asked, do you guys visit local churches while on the road? And my quick answer is no, because we haven't been to a church in about 4 years. So that's kind of a different topic on itself, but I'll just quickly say there's a lot of beautiful people and a lot of beautiful places, and I love the community aspect of churches in general, but I think I've come in contact with more followers, I think, of Christ outside of churches, and
authenticity,
kind of more churchians inside of churches. And if you don't know what a churchian is, you'll have to ask me directly. I'm not going to say it on the video. No, I'm just kidding. But
it's a long story.
It's a long story. That's one of those personal topics. The quick answer is, do we visit local churches? No. But we find some awesome people along the journey.
So another question that we've had is, how do you do laundry? 99% of the time that's coin laundry along the way. We tend to just wear things a couple more times, and my children tend to not look like we're homeless, so I think I'm doing okay. 1% of the time, every once in a while, I'll hand wash something, and I have a really awesome camping clothesline that I love to use when we are actually in one place for long enough for something to dry. Most of the time, we just do the laundry bats.
I have thrown out to her, though, we could do that old school washboard style, right around in here. Be a little loose though.
Another question that we've gotten is, how do you cook? And when we are boondocking more, which we have been lately, I tend to not haul out the propane stove and the 2-burner our propane tank and our stove and all of that, and I don't cook real meals as much when we're boondocking or stealth camping. If we're camping in a neighborhood, then I'm not going to pull that out on the road and make coffee or anything. We eat out or do sandwiches, do lots of fruit, just find other ways to eat that is not quote unquote like cooking.
Next up, we're getting into some deeper topics. How does intimacy on the road work? Well, let me tell you from the male perspective. By the way, we just had a reel on this topic go viral. It has over 2 million views.
True.
I don't know how I feel about it. But the quick answer to this is, let's just say I'm glad I used structural screws on the framing of our bed in the van. I'd say in all seriousness, we are pretty good at stealth making love, and we'll keep it kind of at that. Is there anything you want to add?
Well, I think that the intimacy side is twofold, right? The physical and then the emotional side. And so maybe as the woman that I should interject that there is that side of, you can't really pull away and do date night but just still prioritizing communication within our relationship while on the road, talking about the hard things, working through things. So whether that be while kids are listening to audiobooks in the back of the car while we drive, or at night just whispering while we're in bed, talking through things, working through things. So I feel like that's an important element too that we need to prioritize and still continue to. We have a question of how do you stay organized in such a small space, and I feel like the first part of this is owning less stuff, and we continue to cull through things. I still take stuff to Goodwill, which is funny. I'm like, how can we be in less than 100 square feet and I'm still taking stuff to Goodwill? But if it doesn't work, if it doesn't have a place, then it just can't stay. Also training children, training husband to put things back when you use them, because everything just really has to stay in its place or it begins to feel just cluttered and it doesn't work.
Take the trash and you put it in the trash container. But in a very real way. Do we stay that organized? I mean, remember the blueberry spill of 93? Back when it was 93 degrees? Real life. I am pretty well convinced, though, that by the end of this trip, our rig is going to look something like this.
So we had another question, have you gone stir crazy yet? And I guess when I think of that statement, it makes me think of stagnation, and have felt more like that when I feel kind of stuck in one place. So if we've been at the Tennessee cabin, if we're there for like over a week, or the Oceanside Marina that we camped at, and I didn't feel like I could like wash dishes or like get everything really clean, I felt a little more stir crazy, like oh, I want to go home, or I want to get out of here, or something like that. So I feel like that's when I've felt that. But then as we like got out of town, got into nature, and we just felt just deeply refreshed, and we're like, man, we could keep going. Like, we don't need to like beeline at home. Yeah. So that's been a huge, I guess that's the only times that I've really felt like that stir crazy feeling.
Someone asked, how do your children get an education while on the road? Great question. Ultimately through living, watching us, and us teaching them, very hands-on, a lot of the basics in math and spelling and so on. Not a lot of formality at this point. We're still just doing a lot of life schooling, like my friend Mark at Purely Living Homestead calls it life schooling. We've learned about, unschooling and more of the methods of things, but there's different terminology. I love the term life schooling. More so using the tools that are around us on the journey to teach them, and whatever we see them expressing interest in, we use that as the medium to teach.
For example, we went to Mesa Verde, and for those of you who don't know, it's the cliff dwellings that was in southern Colorado. And we got to teach our children about the Pueblo Indians and the different time periods that they lived in certain ways and why that was. And that was a really fascinating example and time to be able to teach them about that. But also just some of the basics of spelling and reading, how to tell time. Most of the time that's telling them how long till we get to wherever. Look on your watches. Everybody got watches for the trip. And that's been a lot of fun just to teach them hands-on.
Nowadays, it's mainly them yelling, when are we gonna be there? And then we're just like yelling in the back, when the little hand reaches the 4 and when the big hand reaches the 12 or something like that. This is a really good one. How do we determine the pace of travel? I'd say it really depends on what we need as we're going along. We've really enjoyed not booking out campgrounds way in advance, being tied to like a deadline of like, oh, we booked this campground, but then we stopped for 3 hours at this overlook and now we're gonna get in late. Like, it's been so nice not having to worry about like any of that and just doing way more boondocking on this trip. And when we do reserve campgrounds, we just kind of hop online, you know, as we're traveling, if we have signal or whatever, town to town, and just kind of research local campgrounds if we really need electric hookup and a shower and stuff like that, which is typically only every 3 to 4 days, kind of as a minimum time span. Also, it's nice because if we want to stay in an area longer, like we really love certain areas we've been to, we got to just stay for 2 or 3 days and explore the town or, you know, the area more. Even if it's full of nature, it's still nice to be able to stay in kind of one area. Again, not have to worry about, oh, we got a campground 3 states away, you know, 2 weeks in advance and we got to get there. So it's worked out really well. We thought we were going to have to reserve a ton in advance, especially near the national parks and stuff, but we're just not staying at the national parks. We go spend the day there and then we drive 45 minutes outside of the national park and then we get to boondock for free or find a different local campground.
And on that topic, I think unless you're really married to the idea of staying in a certain campground at a certain time, then it's totally fine to go to other little mom and pop campgrounds, and we've really enjoyed those, of how tiny and inexpensive they are, and huge price difference, like $15 a night last night compared to $65, $85 for some RV parks, which don't have that much more to offer. Really not felt like we've needed to book way in advance.
Great point, honey. That was a nice addition. Well, I think that about does it for the questions we had so far, but please feel free to leave us a comment below if you guys have any other questions or comments or thoughts. Unless they're really negative, keep those out of here. But yeah, I mean, some of these answers we didn't do deep dives on, like schooling and, you know, spiritual stuff. Like, we saved those conversations more for private one-on-one type stuff. We hope you guys have enjoyed this video and it's helped answer some questions you guys had about van life or just our journey and the logistics side of things. We're gonna go enjoy some dinner with our children now. Like this video, help it get seen. Until next time, my name is Leif.
I'm Ariel.
Keep living, thriving, and building.